fact or fiction? Dominique, if I said Patrick Mahomes is already the GOAT, is that fact or fiction?
I think it's facts. Like, I understand that we can do ring counting, but like the things that I've seen him accomplish at this early point in his career, and he's probably done it long enough already to be in that conversation, and he has a lot more career left. So maybe he catches Brady in championships, or maybe he doesn't, but I've never seen anyone better than this.
Okay, fair enough. I don't agree, but I appreciate your opinion. Graz, Andy Reid, if I said he has already surpassed Bill Belichick as the GOAT, is that fact or fiction?
I got to go with fiction. I know we're not supposed to count rings, but in this case I am, and he's halfway there. Look, he's made it a conversation, which is an incredible accomplishment when you think about the fact that they're contemporaries. And if Reid had won one or two in Philadelphia, then we probably wouldn't be having the conversation. We probably would just say it's him. Of course, he'd won one or two in Philadelphia.
He would never have gone to Kansas City. Exactly right. Jeffrey, if I said the Chiefs are going to become the first team ever to win 3 straight Super Bowls, is that fact or fiction?
Fact. That's already in, baby. Already posted. Let's make this thing happen. Never be an underdog, Pat Mahomes. I'm with you. I'm 100% in. Let's make it happen. 3-peat. We will celebrate if you know what I'm saying.
He does know what you're saying, because a lot of people might shy away from that conversation, particularly in the immediate aftermath of winning their second championship, but Mahomes is not.
It's legendary. I mean, just to be able to, no one's ever done it. And we knew it's legendary to win back-to-back. I think 8 other teams have done it. I mean, all you can do is come back next year with a fresh mindset, knowing it's going to be even harder. And we got to continue to play our best football. We'll celebrate these next few weeks, and then we'll get right back at it.
Last night on the podium, you said Kansas City should never be an underdog. Chiefs should never be an underdog. Right now, already, day after the Super Bowl, they are not the favorites for next year. What are you telling people to bet on for the Chiefs for next year?
I never feel like we're underdogs. I believe we can win any game that we play in, but we have to continue to prove that every single year.
You just can't ask for a better perspective from a person in his position than he has.
The laugh, though.
Yeah.
Just like, okay, cool.
Well, you know, if that has him running a few more stadium steps or whatever the equivalent of that are during the offseason,
Motivation.
Then so be it. But the bottom line of it is this. I made this comparison earlier because 3-peats are exceedingly rare in the history of American professional sports. We've had it a few times in baseball. We've had it in hockey every now and again, but we haven't seen anyone do this in a very long time. And in football, of course, in the Super Bowl era, it has never happened. But you go back to Michael Jordan and those Bulls where they're 2 separate 3-peats. The amount of pressure, the amount of angst that was created during that. I mean, I was there. I had a front row seat to it every single day. When they won their first one, I've never seen people so happy. I've never seen such unbridled joy. And by the second one, which is what this play came from, and their third one, those locker room celebrations, Jeff, I was there. That's the first one. This is him after winning the first one. This is him after, well, this is the first one after he came back. But the point of it is, the difference in the first one from the second and the third celebration was a celebration of relief. They were so relieved to have done it because the pressure on them was so great. Does that happen with the Chiefs now? And if so, how does that affect them?
No, listen, the expectations for Michael Jordan and in basketball was that this was going to happen. In football, it has never happened. And we've seen, you know, the Patriots try to do it 20 years ago. But the way that Patrick Mahomes manages not only himself but his team allows everybody to flourish, right? He takes everything on himself. He can handle the pressure, right? He's not worried about it. I mean, we see it in balls that should be caught that he says, you know what, I'm going to throw it a yard shorter next time. And then he does it in the AFC Championship game. He pulls the ball down in 4th and 1 instead of giving somebody an opportunity to possibly make a mistake. He makes that play. I think when you think about Patrick Mahomes and the way that he goes about leading his organization, it takes the pressure off of everybody else. Go be you, man. I want you to go be, we're going to work hard. We're going to be that. But the expectation, this will surpass any expectation that any of us had in football if they're capable of doing this.
I hear you. For the record, when Jordan and the Bulls went for that first 3-peat, it hadn't been done in the sport since the 60s.
Right.
It hadn't been done since the Celtics. The expectation of it, the weight of it was palpable. You could feel it around them at all times. And I just wonder, this is a different conversation now. A lot of teams have won back-to-back championships. And to the point that Graz made earlier, like on Christmas Day, this team was left for dead.
Agreed.
No one was talking about the pressure on them to win a Super Bowl. The pressure, especially with the way they're talking, starts right now for them to win again.
Right, but I mean, I think that what happened is you talk about those Bulls teams, and there's a lot of external expectations, right? If they hadn't won those titles, they would have been viewed as a disappointment. Whereas the Chiefs, I was in the locker room Sunday and also last year. It was not a feeling of relief. It was a feeling of accomplishment and satisfaction in that accomplishment, because what they overcame was not necessarily external expectations as much as their own struggles, right? All through the year, right? The offense was not getting going. They couldn't figure it out. They lose to the Raiders and look lifeless, really, on Christmas Day, which was right before the end of the season, right before the playoffs were going to start. So they felt like the work we did, the patience we showed with ourselves, the belief we maintained in ourselves, that all paid off. And that's an accomplishment. And we don't care what anybody else is saying.
I think the point that Greeny is making, and it's a good one, is that this three-peat, it's going to be different.
Is it?
Because last year we didn't expect it from them. And we were like, oh, they got rid of Tyreek Hill. This is a rebuilding situation. And they got there and they did. And we're like, cool. This year they struggle all season and they get there and they do it. And we're like, that's amazing. Now, since we know history is riding on this, no one's ever done it. It reminds me a little bit of the Patriots' undefeated season, where every week after it becomes a bigger deal. This following season is going to be all about the storyline for the following season is going to be, will Patrick Mahomes do something that no quarterback has ever done in NFL history? The pressure changes. If anybody can handle it, they can. They've shown that they can handle anything from not having great receivers to adding a pop star to their team, essentially the pop star to their team. So I think they can, but the pressure that they're going to feel, the external pressure, it's going up.
It's interesting. So you think they'd be better off having a little bit of a rough start and then overcoming that?
That's what we saw this
lying
year.
in the weeds,
That's
right?
what we saw this year.
So let me say this too. Against the Eagles, I'm pretty sure they were underdogs.
Yeah,
Against the 49ers,
They're
underdogs, right? So let's make sure we're framing it the right way, right? Is that these expectations that you're talking about for the Bulls and for these same questions will happen next year for the Chiefs. They potentially could be an underdog again.
Confidence comes from my preparation. I think you see a lot of the same stuff with the Chiefs, with Mahomes. I think that little laugh there at that question about how they're not Super Bowl favorites is like, great, fine. We might not win the Super Bowl, but I know that you shouldn't count us out. Like we've been through this before. And I think that's the key with Patrick Mahomes. I think his confidence, obviously immense talent on a level we've never seen, but also the preparation he puts in. He believes, after that Raider game, he did that weird press conference where he kept saying the same thing over and over again. Once we clean it up. He said clean it up like 20 times. Once we clean it up, we'll be fine. And that was like he was determined, like, I know what we can do.
I'm sorry to keep going to basketball, but I feel like it's the only place we can go for these comparisons. But it does remind me of LeBron in some ways, in that we knew immediately, very early on, that we're counting titles for LeBron. And the pressure on his teammates and the pressure on him is very different. We're already at that stage for Patrick Mahomes. This following season gives him a chance to separate himself from Tom Brady in a way that he may not be able to in rings total. But I do think that means there's going to be a pressure, whether they accept it or not, on him and his team going forward to give him a chance to do it.
Well, let's then talk about the stuff that they're going to have to deal with first. And I heard Andy say it the other day, and everyone knows it. The team's not coming back intact. No. Changes are going to be made. There's some players they're going to have to try and bring back. You were talking earlier about re-signing Chris Jones, which I think feels critical.
Absolutely.
Is a complicated one. Is this a team that players are going to take less money to be on in order to try and win the championship?
I absolutely think this is a team where players would consider that, especially if they're later in their careers and they haven't won a championship. The idea that it's almost guaranteed, well, not almost, it's guaranteed that you're going to be in the AFC Championship at least. And it's highly likely that you're going to be in a Super Bowl, and there's a strong chance that you might win it. So yeah, guys will give up a couple years or a couple million here or there, guys who have already made a bunch to get close to that, because that's why you play.
Yeah.
Yes, I think Belichick was able to do that for years with the Patriots. Negotiate deals that were a little more favorable to him, because he could say, like, you want to go make a couple more $1 million, or you want to play in the Super Bowl every year?
And like I think about like this, like a guy like Tyron Smith, right, for the Cowboys, who's played forever at left tackle.
He's coming to the Jets. And he's coming to play with Rodgers.
Okay, so you'd rather go to the Jets than the Chiefs?
Don't.
Yeah, you sell
don't
that.
make it.
I'm not
you
saying,
sell that to yourself.
I would.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So, and I'm not saying he is, but I'm just saying those kind of situations to me feel like when we had these conversations about should Stephon Diggs be off of the bill. If you're Stephon Diggs, you tell me that ain't the first call. Like, that's where you're going. And it doesn't matter about money at this point, because we're going to go get rings and money. I think those type of conversations are different when you're sitting in Kansas City than anywhere else in the league.
Well, and I also think that we were talking earlier on our call this morning about one more threat at receiver. I think that I love Travis Kelce. He's an all-time great. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. You can make an argument he's the greatest tight end of all time. Mm-hmm. I think his time as being a number one receiver in the NFL, if it isn't over, it's coming to that. It's just age is going to catch up. So I do think that is an area they may need to go. Unless Rashee Rice, blows up and becomes the next guy, then you start looking at the free agent receivers, the T. Higginses, the Mike Evanses, people like that.
But I mean, if it's going to cost to re-sign Chris Jones and he can't afford to bring back L'Jarius Sneed and all these other guys that were on that graphic a minute ago, like it's tough to find money to go get a free agent wide receiver.
That's why I'm asking if they will take less money. Would a guy like
it have to be a lot less and to fit under the Chiefs cap. Look, I mean, it's a great receiver draft from everything we've been told. I know they're picking 32 again, but they should be able to find somebody there.
And they'll restructure Mahomes to get more money. Like they're going to do things that way to help this team. They will find money for play. The whole cap thing, they'll find money that they need to find. I do think though, like their receiving type deals, they're kind of like the Packers with a quarterback, right? Or even the Packers with receivers. They just don't. They didn't with Tyreek Hill, who's the best, possibly the best receiver in our game. And they're like, hey, we're going to let him move on because it puts a strain on us that we can't because we have Mahomes.
And I just
think it's hard.
This is probably a broader conversation for some other time, but I think it's probably hard to play receiver in that offense. Like, I think it's ridiculous that they've brought in so many receivers, and it seems like none of them have stuck. I think in part of that is having a relationship with Patrick that Travis had, that Tyreek has, and it seems like Rice is having. So it's not a sure thing just because someone's really good that they're going to show up and be really good there.